John, let's slowly start up the presentation and get yourself in front of the team over here.
Sounds good.
Yes. Yes, can see it and loud and clear. So I can also hear you loud and clear. I know that we tested your webcam, but
yeah, unfortunately the webcam won't connect. I actually can't see any of you all either. So probably something with the firewall. But yeah, just let me know. You want me to just go ahead and get started?
I suggest we get started. I'll close my webcam as well. It will only be distracting for your presentation. But quick intro. John, you're also one of our VLN members. Very appreciated by the fact that you're always sharing what you can share on behalf of BAE, which is already a big thing. So browse through some of your slides and demos. So I'm very excited to share this with the rest of the world. So go ahead, and I'll talk to you in. I'll put my camera back on when you're done. Thank you.
All right, sounds good.
Go
Thanks.
ahead.
So hello everybody, I'm John Cardea. I am a systems engineer for BAE Systems over in the US. I'm also the tech lead for our virtual reality development group. Got a couple slides here to talk through one of the use cases that we have that kind of relates to training. It relates to training, some proofing out. So it touches on some of the things that we've heard of already today, but with a little bit of a twist. So I'll go ahead and get into that. So real quickly, some of the hardware that we're able to use to help out with all of this training is a combination of laptops, desktops, HTC Vive headsets. We have a couple different active walls in a few of our locations. So Visionary Render has really enabled us to create these scenes and interact with them in a bunch of different ways so that when a user wants to either train or just view a scene, whatever they're trying to do, we can have the most ideal way for them to do that. A little bit of background for what our technical approach here is for training. This started out as a procedural proofing effort. We work with a lot of different customers. We are also a systems integrator, so we don't actually develop any hardware. But one of our jobs is to take all this information that other people create, and we have to write up procedures and different tests for certain components. And one of the problems with such a large customer base is that you run into problems with siloed artifacts. So one of the things that we're trying to do with these trainings is to take this siloed information, whether it is CAD models, paper documents, different contractor-owned artifacts, and transition that into more digital engineering and having eventually digitally integrated artifacts. So, we're aggregating paper documents into Cameo Systems Modeler, we're processing and integrating our 3D models into Visionary Render, and then we're combining all of that together. So, and then once that's done, we have a better single source of truth as opposed to having data and information all over the place. So, one of the differences from what we've seen with some of these other examples is that these procedures that we have can be upwards of 100 pages long. They're very complicated. Some of the systems are hard to actually interact with on a daily basis. So, one of the ways that we were approaching this is we take this large document or a procedure that needs to be written out. We can develop that in Cameo where you can get a much better idea of the actual order and how this system is going to be set up. You can run simulations with that. And then we're able to export this data into Visionary Render so that we have our single source of truth of all of the information for a procedure. And then we can bring that into our VR scene. We can use that information from Cameo or from a paper document, really however it needs to be set up. We can expand on that with those virtual interactions that we've seen. We can list things in different GUIs, and then we can we have that detailed CAD that we've seen in a couple other demos. So that's a little bit of the background of what we're trying to do. So this demo that I'm about to show is a very much a bare bones version that we are allowed to share outside of our community. but this is just going to give us a quick example of how we can combine together this information, from documents. We can bring it in with different CAD models to really help either proof out a procedure to make sure that it's going to work the way we want it to before it gets to the very end fully submitted, and then we're also able to make sure everything works, and then people can actually train on that so that they're more familiar with what they're going to be seeing before they have to go to a physical location and do these. So our team of engineers came up with this a couple weeks ago. A few of these I'm not going to really talk to with these importing and deleting steps, but these come directly to into here through some scripting languages, some scripts. We have those saved on a network drive, but essentially we now have these steps open here, so a user can run through these, see the list of what they need to do. So I won't run through this entire thing, but some of these steps, first one is you have to press a button to open a hatch. So now a user can press that, whether you're on your computer, in a scene, on an active wall, in a headset. We ran this demo a little bit earlier today where we had a couple computers networked together. Each user can see each other. It can be really helpful if you have, because most procedures require more than one person. So we press that button, it marks that step is now being completed. It brings us into the room that we need to be working on. Like I mentioned, this is pretty bare bones, but very similar to what we had talked about before. Depending on what 3D models that you have, you can texture them. Sometimes they come already textured, depending on what CAD models we get. And then you can run through these steps. So for instance, we have to get through this door, have to enter in a password, but we're also able to help the user out. So say you do enter an incorrect password, you get that error that something has gone wrong, it turns red, and then we can ensure that the user, only when they enter the correct information, they get that green arrow and those doors are going to open up. So users are able to come in here. We can create any sorts of GUIs that we might need. We can see that there are a couple warnings going on here. One of the ways that having these kinds of procedures in VR can be really helpful is that, say in this procedure, you see that we have these warnings, and then the procedure says that the user has to turn valves to fix these burst pipes. Well, that's just one step right there, but once you've combined these together, maybe before you've published your whole procedure, you might realize, okay, in this scenario, that room that we have to go to is way far on the other side. So maybe it's important to state in here that, another person needs to be in the other room. Another person needs to be in the other room, or we have to physically put in here that a user has to walk all the way down this hallway, open this door right here before they can get into the room where they see some burst pipes. So, we can come in here, we can see that, next step is to turn these. We have a couple indicators here as well saying that there's an error going on. We can click through, we can see that, once they've been selected and closed off, the lights change colors. So we can do that to all three of these. We can see that now that we know that all of the pipes have been closed off, the system automatically detects that. There's, and then there's a bunch of different uses that you can have for this. For instance, we can have a couple different electrical switches that we can turn. Not going to go through all of that, but it can be really helpful in really understanding what the use is going to be for a particular training or a procedure. You can run through that. You can have multiple people collaborated into a session where you have a couple, you would have one person in this room, one in the other. And these can get really complex. Again, like I mentioned, this is a relatively straightforward example of this, but we have other models and demos for our customers that can really get deep in the weeds on what screens are showing, different systems interacting with each other, and things like that. So we can rerun this diagnostic, and then we see that what we had done with the valves were closed, that's now complete, and now the problem is just with these breakers. So a lot of options that we can do with this, we can turn keys, we can press different buttons, however the user requires it. So, we're doing this for our customer. We've shown off tons of demos of this, and even in a simple case like this, people are really understanding the usefulness and where this can go in the future, especially as, say you're working on an old program where lots of stuff is in paper documents. It can be very helpful to, save money, help people understand better what their job's going to be. New engineers coming out of college that are jumping into these programs that don't have years and years of experience like a lot of the workforce, can be extremely helpful for that. So that's the quick demo that I wanted to give. I'll pass it back to Dimitri if we have any questions or anybody has any follow-ups. But yeah, appreciate the opportunity here.
Yes, John, I mean, incredible, man, sharing this with us. I mean, there's one question on how are you deciding what scenarios or procedures, to embed in the training? Is there because you can go very deep, you can stay high level. I mean, how do you determine all the necessary scenarios that needs to be checked off?
Yeah, great question. So, that's just conversations that we have with our customers, whether they're internal to BAE or external. We're not trying to use VR just because it's cool or anything like that. We really want to use the right tool for the right job. And there's, with the scripting language that's built into Visionary Render,
Mm-hmm.
It can be a little bit harder sometimes to build out really, really complex. It's not a gaming engine. We know some other companies use that kind of thing, but for a procedure like this, where you have a set written down structure, that when I push this button, these things have to happen. Maybe you have to do steps A, B, C before D is even an option. Those are all super doable, and it's really just conversations with the customer. One of the other great things that we've enjoyed is how agile the development of this is. So
Yep.
we can put together a few steps, we can show it off to the customer. We are really taking the approach of, everybody's working on this together. It's not a please give me this final result, go off and do it, and then we get no more feedback. This really enables us to have a lot more collaboration with our customers to make sure that what we're delivering is going to be helpful.
And how many team members are involved in developing, the training scenarios you just showed us?
Yeah, so we have a very small team right now. We have there's only four of us, I believe, right now. So we're working on tons of different pilot projects, but even with a small team, it can be very useful, especially for our customer. There's a lot of information that is shared, so the end goal might be slightly different from person to person, but say we get a new request for a training or just to help with a design review or anything like that, what we need to do for them has most likely already been done to a degree. So we have, baseline files of CAD, we have different screens that we've built out that can be reused. So, even with a pretty small team, we're able to get a lot of this information done.
Fine, and I think it makes it even more impressive, John. So final question from the list. That's the last one, folks. Question: are there any benefits beyond training? Is there more to report? This is training oriented, but
right, yeah. So we picked this particular use case that we were allowed to share, but a couple of the other ways that we're using Visionary Render in some of these scenes is, I mentioned there's obviously the training and the procedural proofing, but we've also done a decent number of design reviews for certain components, and then it's also for familiarization in general. When you're working on systems that are very massive and very hard to get access to, we've created a couple scenes that are using CAD, 2D photos, 360-degree photos, and we're looking to add in some LiDAR as well to really help people familiarize themselves with what they're going to be doing, where they might need to go, or just, even if it's not for a specific purpose, really just having a better idea of where they fit in the work that they do on the system.
John, thanks a lot. I mean, have a great day. Talk to you soon. Thanks for your presentation.